Part 6. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 51. Chapter 51, Golden Road. Mortals have no knowledge, so they think it is a demon that has revealed its true form. Therefore, it spread and Wu Yu became a terrifying existence. However, Immortal Haoshan and Ghost Ji clearly understood that Wu Yu could not be a demon, but this method really made them unbelievable. I didn't expect you to have such ability. After transforming this beast, the taste will be more delicious. Ghost Ji was not afraid and continued to attack. Under its arousal, the evil ghost became even more violent. Boom! The unparalleled immortal ape rotated the demon-subduing stick in his hand several times, and the weapon was almost like his arm. Wu Yu usually felt that the demon-subduing stick was a bit heavy, but only after the immortal ape transformed, he could use it with more hands. Snap! This time the power surged, and the demon-subduing stick was like a violent storm. It hit the evil ghosts at random, and for a while, even the ground cracked a mesh with a radius of several hundred meters. Crack! Break! Under the violent bombardment of the golden immortal ape, the evil spirit roared miserably, but still had no chance to resist. Wu Yu smashed more than 100 sticks until it turned into a pile of rancid meat, and then it was gone. Movement. This immortal ape transformation is really manic. It wasn't until the evil ghost was completely destroyed that Wu Yu regained consciousness. The immortal ape transformation was the immortal ape transformation. It was better not to use it until it was absolutely necessary. This use was like being possessed by a demon. He had to smash everything to stop it. Ghost Princess. As soon as the evil ghost was extinguished, Wu Yu stared at Ghost Ji. Unexpectedly, the ghost girl gave a cold smile. She was different from where she stood. At this moment, Wu Yu felt a gust of wind, which was downright chilly. He turned around suddenly and saw the pale woman. This collision with him did not knock Wu Yu away, but disappeared directly. Ha ha! Sun Wudao, you are dead. After this scene, Ghost Ji held her belly and laughed, leaning forward and back. Although her voice was pleasant, her face could only be described as ugly. Boom! Wu Yu was about to rush forward and blow up the ghost girl to pieces, but unexpectedly, at this moment, his spirit was greatly shaken, his brain was roaring, and there was something that did not belong to him in his body, which was affecting his body to a terrifying degree. Mind. Sun Wudao, Sun Wudao. That terrifying spiritual will was crying and calling this name. Wu Yu suddenly found that the world in front of him was blood red, with mountains of corpses and seas of blood everywhere. Roll. He knew that it must be the wronged soul that had entered his body and wanted to control his body. Wu Yu didn't know how this wronged soul did it. He only knew the tip of the iceberg of everything in this vast world, so he didn't even know how to expel this wronged soul from his body. I died so miserably, Wu Yu. Such a voice kept echoing in his ears, and the pale woman kept shaking in front of his eyes. Looking from the outside, the tall golden ape knelt down on the spot after taking down the evil ghost, covering his head in pain. At this time, he roared, stood up, and was about to kill Ghost Ji, but he immediately stopped. The two legs seemed to be fighting, and they even took the demon-subduing stick and smashed it towards themselves. Wu. In that carriage, seeing Wu Yu in such pain, Princess Wu Yu's face had long been filled with tears. She couldn't even call out Wu Yu's name at this time. Zhu Regicide glanced at her coldly and said, "You should care about yourself, Wu Yu. It's no small feat to be able to make a great immortal like you. These 8 brothers under me are all attracted to you. Can you take care of 8 of them?" After saying that, he laughed heartily. On the other side, under the nervous gazes of everyone, Ghost Ji smiled sweetly and said, "Forget it, I won't play with you anymore." After all, her methods were superior to Wu Yu's. With a wave of her hand, the flag of the soul-calling flag was rolled up on the flagpole. The flagpole turned into a spear. Ghost Ji held the spear and floated towards Wu Yu. Sun Wudao, I'm dead, Ju Jun sneered. Although the other party was an immortal, he was too lazy to respect a dying person. On the contrary, Wu Yu's struggling expression now made him enjoy it very much. Sure enough, at this time, the ghost girl continued to perform Taoist magic. She recited the magic spell. As she moved forward, she tapped the soul-calling flag 10 times with her finger. Every time she tapped it, a black snake wrapped around her. On the summoning flag. 10 times later, there were 10 black snakes on the summoning flag, grinning and swallowing snake messages. Try my third master's unique skill, the 10 snake soul-piercing spear. This is the unique skill of one of the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea, and it is its famous Taoist technique. Over the past 100 years, at least thousands of righteous disciples have died under the 10 snakes soul-piercing spear. Of course, the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea, who are evil and terrifying, call themselves the 7 Immortals of the Red Sea. The ghost girl floated towards Wu Yu like a ghost, and the soul-calling flag turned into a spear, piercing Wu Yu's heart. At this time, Wu Yu was still under the influence and control of the wronged soul. While fighting and struggling with the will of the wronged soul, Wu Yu suddenly opened his eyes and saw the terrifying Taoist magic from Ghost Ji. 10 black snakes entangled and rolled around the soul-calling flag, even showing a smile. If I get hit, I will definitely return to the West. Wu Yu realized it clearly. This is Wudu, not the Tongtian sword sect, so no one can help him. This is a breathtaking moment. Elder sister. Wu Yu's eyes filled with tears as he stared at his own life and death. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. When death comes, the whole world becomes quiet. This is a wonderful feeling. In fact, when Wu Yu came to this position, he had this feeling. In the past month, he was seeking peace, but he never felt peaceful. But after he mustered up the courage to come to this battlefield, in this battle, there is true tranquility. Obviously, now that the innocent spirits are interfering, there is a ghost girl taking her life, and there are also the frightened eyes of the people of Wudu. This is obviously the most noisy time. The Immortal Road. Behind Ghost Ji, Wu Yu saw a golden avenue burning with golden flames. This is not an illusion created by the innocent soul. Come on. Come on. Wu Yu. After experiencing the moment of deathly silence in the world, Wu Yu's immortal ape body stirred up a storm. The majestic and hot blood is rolling. It was as if someone was asking himself. Wu Yu, the road to immortality is vast and full of obstacles, what do you think is the most important? If Wu Yu understood it at this moment, he would say it was courage. The courage to challenge. Courage to rise. The courage to slay demons. The courage to attack the immortal road, reverse the yin and yang, and shatter the void. That is a seed that absorbs the energy of heaven and earth and sprouts decisively. Click. Something seemed to be breaking in the immortal ape's violent body. In fact, there was nothing in front of Wu Yu, only the ghost girl, only 10 snakes, and only the soul-calling flag. But just like this, he felt that the body of this unparalleled immortal ape belonged to him. Wu Yu, am on a thin line between life and death. But cultivation is an act that defies heaven and earth. It seizes the creation of heaven and earth, and takes the divine light of the sun and moon, using the aura of heaven and earth to forge oneself. The so-called thin line between life and death is perfectly normal. Those who succeed sing all the way. The loser will turn into Lois and die. I don't want to be that Lois. If I want to do it, I have to be that unparalleled Monkey King, omnipotent and omnipotent. The boiling blood, centered on the strong heart, rushed out and gushed out all over his body. Wu Yu's golden ape body was literally surging with heat. Wu Yu, I said I will protect you for the rest of my life. How can I, Wu Yu, let these monsters and ghosts taint you? If you die, you will regret it forever. All the fire in my heart burst out from my mouth. Ghost Princess. Wu Yu suddenly stood up, holding the demon-subduing stick in one hand, making a clicking sound. How? Ghost G smiled, but the 10-snake soul-piercing spear did not stop and had already stabbed Wu Yu in the chest. I want you to turn into ashes. When Wu Yu said the word me, his thick arms moved. One stick, smash it violently. That's a magic stick. This stick, spirit, flesh, and blood, together with the demon-subduing stick, are completely integrated into one. This stick is a kind of transcendence. The moment he swung the stick, Wu Yu's life changed. He seemed to have come to an endless void. He swung his stick and suddenly, the stars fell, the bright moon shattered, and the scorching sun disappeared. One stick, channeling the gods. This stick made Wu Yu suck in the spiritual energy of heaven and earth like crazy, allowing his flesh, blood, and spirit to transform and merge, transcending the realm of mortals, becoming a martial artist, and reaching the 10th level of martial arts. This stick has the strength of 10,000 war horses. That stick shocked the entire Wu city. Just like the sun rising from the East China Sea, it shines brightly in an instant. And that ghost girl, under this will, simply turned into a ghost. Use the magic stick to hit Ghost G on the head. When the stick hit the ghost girl's head, the 10-snake soul-piercing spear was piercing Wu Yu's flesh and blood. At this moment, Wu Yu had completed the first level of his indestructible body. Furthermore, now that he is in the state of the immortal ape transformation, his divine body is even harder. The soul-calling flag itself is not a spear-like magic weapon. At this time, it has even failed to penetrate Wu Yu's flesh and blood. But in just a moment, Wu Yu's magic stick had already caused the ghost girl's body to burst. Click. In an instant, a peerless reversal occurred, and Ghost G was instantly killed. She didn't even have a chance to scream, and fell heavily in front of Wu Yu's eyes, and she had already returned to the west. With a clang, the soul-calling flags were scattered on the ground. As for the wronged soul, without the support of the soul-summoning flag, it disappeared in an instant. Roar. For a moment, the dark clouds dispersed and the scorching sun stood in the sky. The golden ape let out a roar, venting the excitement in his heart. The demon-subduing stick was under his control and violently hit the ground. Immediately, starting from Wu Yu's feet, a crack in the earth moved forward rapidly. It broke at the foot of the Wuta city wall. At that moment, the entire Wuta trembled violently. Ghost girl, die. Call. The immortal ape became too manic, and Wu Yu had to vent his anger before he could return to his human form. Fortunately, when the immortal ape transformed, his head did not become too big, so the demon monkey mask could still hold up, otherwise his identity would have been exposed at this time. When he returned to his figure, he looked towards Wu Du. Zhu Jiajun, Wu Yu, Haoshan, 11 Fei, and more than 100,000 Wuda people were all looking at him. /U003CE /U003E /U003CE /U003F. Follow the official QQ account 17K, ID, Love 17K, read early, and keep abreast of the latest information /U003C/E /U003E /U003C/E /U003E. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 52. After that day, Ghost G never came out to look for food. B/U003E. However, the 9 regicides in Wu Palace in Tianwu had already told Wu Yu to rest for a month. Although Ghost G had lost the fun in Wudu, they were not in a hurry to leave. Wu Yu has her own network, and she knows how many babies Wudu has. Ghost G's ability not to cause trouble gave Wu Yu time to sprint. This time is similar to the time against Situ Ming Lang, they are both sprinting for a decisive battle. But the problem is, that time I got the fierce blood drop by chance. Obviously I won't have such luck this time. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. A magic stick requires Wu Yu to expend a huge amount of surprise. From Vajra forged flesh to immortal ape transformation, you either need persistence, patience, or an opportunity. Only this 10th level of one stick to the gods actually requires a thorough understanding. This seemed to be the first time for Wu Yu. Its difficulty is almost greater than the previous sum total. After pondering for a while, Wu Yu came to a conclusion. Martial arts can lead to the gods, and one can reach the gods with a stick. If there is a chance and enlightenment, it may be possible in one day. If there is neither, then I am afraid that I may be trapped in this situation for 10 years or 100 years. 1 month can only be said to be quite thrilling. On the way to cultivating Taoism, those who try are like crucian carp crossing the river, but not many succeed. I am not special, and I should not underestimate the immortal way. If you underestimate the immortal way will underestimate me, and then I will not be able to reach the gods for the rest of my life. Without being able to communicate with the gods, the chance of defeating Ghost Princess is only 20%. Once she loses, Princess Wu Yu's life will be an endless hell. It's unimaginable. That's why it seemed like the pressure on Wu Yu was a little too great. If it was just for his own revenge, his pressure wouldn't seem to be so great. The positive pressure was like a maggot attached to the bone, which made Wu Yu unable to truly concentrate at all times during his practice, and even made him arrogant. As a result, he gained nothing at all for a long time. The more you try to calm yourself down, the less likely you are to remain calm. Calmness is not something you can get if you want it. When Wu Yu is involved, it is really difficult to calm down and concentrate. Wu Yu was counting the time every day. As each day passed, there were not many opportunities left for him. Wu Yu has almost finished building momentum. In recent days, there have been a lot of opposition voices among the people about her marrying to the Eastern Divine Kingdom. Some people even went to the government in groups to make a fuss. Some people gathered in the streets and walked around shouting and causing trouble. There was a lot of noise, but fortunately there were no casualties. After a series of preparations, at least 80% of the people in Wudu alone were unwilling to let Princess Wu Yu marry far away from the Eastern Divine Kingdom. Especially in this month, the Eastern Divine Kingdom's escort troops stationed outside Wudu have had many conflicts with the local people. The other side was ruthless and showed no mercy at all. Therefore, the reputation of Eastern God Kingdom is even worse. But Wu Yu knew that it all depended on Wu Yu. Although it would be a day that would determine life and death in a few days, Wu Yu was still calm. Wu Yu at least gave her hope. Actually, knowing that you are still alive is already great news for me. My life and death are no longer important at night. Wu Yu came to the tower, leaning on the fence, looking at Wu Yu the city's night. There are still a few days. Wu Yu's voice was hoarse. 3 days. 3 days. The demon-subduing stick fell heavily to the ground. I have racked my brains, but to no avail. Practicing this path is so difficult. There are only 3 days left. What can I do to fight against the ghost girl? Wu Yu, please calm down and listen to me. Wu Yu came back with a calm expression. She held Wu Yu's even number, looked at Wu Yu with a pair of beautiful eyes, and said softly, "Brother, don't force yourself on this matter. A month has passed, and there is a 20% chance of winning. There is no way my sister will let you fight. No. Calm down. Let me ask you, can you protect my mother clan?" Wu Yu asked. Of course, as long as Wu Yu is here, it will not be easy for you and how to destroy Wu Yu's mother clan. Moreover, Wu Yu's mother clan also has some fighting strength. Hearing this, Wu Yu smiled gently and said, "That's easy to handle. If you make a breakthrough in these 3 days, then you can take action on that day." If you are still in the current state, you can't go all out, then it's not good for you. What you need to do is to protect my mother clan, and as long as I leave Wudu, I can commit suicide by taking poison, and let Dong Shenkuo take back a corpse. Brother, this is a good ending for me. At least you are still alive, at least I have the right to commit suicide, instead of not even having the possibility to commit suicide, at least you can protect my mother clan. Wu Yu with warm tears in her eyes, she was actually very satisfied. Wu Yu was in a manic mood. He shook his head and said, "Sister, no matter what happens in 3 days, I will appear in front of you." Wu Yu, you don't even listen to what I say. Wu Yu had a straight face and wanted to be serious, but tears burst out and he couldn't hold it back any longer. I can listen to everything, but I can't listen to this matter, Wu Yu said firmly and decisively. I can tell you, if you show up without enough confidence, I will die in front of your eyes. Perhaps for Wu Yu, the most important thing now is Wu Yu's life. She doesn't know how to practice. I thought I would have a chance in a month, but it is so easy to practice. This is the first time they have had such a conflict. Wu Yu was in a state of confusion. He thought carefully and realized that it was useless to stand up to Wu Yu here. He took a deep breath and said, "Sister, for the remaining 3 days, you just follow their arrangements. I know my limits and will not embarrass you. Believe me. This chapter is not over yet. Please click on the next page to continue reading. There is no way to continue arguing. No one can convince anyone." Wu Yu choked up several times, but she knew better that with Wu Yu's personality, no matter how she threatened, he would definitely do his own thing. "Okay, then I'll go first. Take care." She left. Looking at her thin figure leaving, Wu Yu clenched his fists tightly. Hatred, anger, and mania, these factors were wildly stirring in him. Life and death, this is the immortal way. Not only is he on the verge of life and death, but Princess Wu Yu is also on the verge of life and death. Wu Yu seemed to see endless thorns on this road. I can't care about so much. If I can't even protect my sister, what kind of immortality and Taoism can I practice, Wu Yu? After 3 days, it's nothing but beating and smashing. Then I'm going to smash him and turn the world upside down. He didn't stay in the practice room of Wu Yu Palace, but went to Shangxian Peak, where there was no one and the world was open. Because of the reality and the helpless conversation with Wu Yu, he had accumulated too much rage and depression in his heart. In this empty, straight, and towering Shangxian Peak, where no one lives, he held the demon subduing stick and smashed and destroyed it as much as he wanted. Just as he said, he smashed the world and turned the world upside down. But that was not a stick that could reach the gods. Until he was tired, Wu Yu lay on the broken stones and looked at the sky. I don't know if the Monkey King will be so powerless. I just don't know how he cracked it. Wu Yu stood up and looked at Wu Du, his blood boiling. 3 days passed in a flash. This day was a big day for Wu Du. Although the Dongshen Kingdom's team would not leave until noon, the streets of Wudu were already full of people early in the morning. The main road of Wudu was called Donghai Avenue. In the morning, the Wudu Imperial Guards had already maintained order on Donghai Avenue to prevent the desperate people from affecting the departure of the Dongshen Kingdom's team. During this month, the Donggui royal family knew that many Wudu righteous men were dissatisfied with Princess Wu Yu's marriage to a distant place. There was even a group of martial artists gathered in Wudu, ready to intercept the 9 killers and protect Princess Wu Yu. Among them, there were even heroes with martial arts cultivation exceeding the 5th level. The weather in Wudu today was very cold, and it even rained lightly. People stood in the cold wind, shivering with cold, and could only stand close to each other, but this could not stop their determination to stay here. People stretched their necks and looked in the direction of the palace. Some martial artists stood directly on the rooftop, holding swords and looking grim. The guards on the East Sea Avenue could not help but feel nervous when they saw these martial artists. After all, there were many famous people. In this cold rain, the atmosphere became heavier and heavier. The Wu Palace in the east seemed very desolate. The guards and palace maids did not have festive expressions on their faces, but were full of sorrow. They also heard a lot of rumors and knew very well that their kind and beautiful princess might have a hellish future. In the bedroom of Princess Wu, more than a dozen women were busy dressing Wu and putting on her wedding dress. Miss Hang was combing her hair, but she was crying. Wu stared at herself in the bronze mirror in a daze. Wu Yu has been away for 3 days. The more this happened, the more nervous she became. She had a premonition that today was definitely not a peaceful day. It would be great if he could give up when faced with difficulties Wu Yu longed. However, when Wu Yu's appearance appeared in his mind, Wu Yu could never imagine that this determined young man would choose to give up. Princess, the convoy of the East God country is already waiting outside. The 9 Kingslayer came in personally after a while. A guard came in hurriedly. /U003ch//U003e. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 53. Under the eyes of countless people, Wu Yu did something. Mo Shishu said that the so-called killing and grabbing treasures means taking the other party's Miji bag. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Now, the sinful ghost Ji has been put to death. If Wu Yu doesn't take her bag of rice and soul summoning flag, Immortal Haoshan will take them away. Someone will take it anyway, so why doesn't Wu Yu take it? Every treasure has someone to use it. Aren't many magic weapons just changed hands several times and are still in circulation today? However, Wu Yu really couldn't use the soul calling banner. It belonged to a ghost cultivator. He planned to take it back to the Tongtian sword sect and let Feng Shui deal with it. As for the opponent's bag of rice, now was not the time to check it, so Wu Yu hung it directly on his waist. After finishing all this, Wu Yu arrived in front of the 9 regicides in a few steps. The swordsmanship rules say that ascetics are not allowed to kill mortals, otherwise they will harm their merits, and heaven, earth, and all things will not care about them. Even ascending to immortality is more difficult than ordinary people. The ascetics believe in this, but the ghost cultivators don't believe it at all and kill at will. Because of this, Wu Yu was not prepared to kill the 9 regicides. After all, Su Yanli and the others had also told them not to influence matters in the mortal world. If he kills the 9 regicides, he is afraid that the 38 islands in the East China Sea will fall into chaos again. When the ghost girl died in an instant, the face of the 9 regicides who laughed wildly froze for a moment. Until now, the dark face had turned pale. When Wu Yu approached, he had already rolled off the horse and cried bitterly. Tears, Sun Shangxian, I won't marry Princess Wu anymore. You can take Princess Wu away. Don't kill me. From being aloof, he became a grandson in an instant. In Wudu, without the ghost lady, the 9 regicides would really be nothing. He kept kowtowing, and the 8 generals behind him were scared to death. Ghost Girl was killed. The only disciple of the 7 Immortals of the Red Sea was actually killed in Wudu. Zhu Regicide was shaken in his heart and could not calm down at all. Now Wu Yu was like a god descending to earth. The terrifying pressure had scared him to the point of almost incontinence. The majestic emperor of the East China Sea is now a pathetic creature. 9 regicides. Wu Yu raised his head with the demon-subduing stick. I won't kill you, Wu Yu said. Thank you Sun Shangxian, Zhu Regicide cried with joy. Click. Wu Yu's demon-suppressing stick hit the corner of his eye, and he had only one eye left. At this time, the remaining eye made a crisp sound, and blood gushed out. He was afraid that he would not be able to use it in the future. Ah, I can't see. Zhu regicide rolled to the ground in pain. Go back to the East China Sea. From today on, the pirates in the East are not allowed to step into the Wu kingdom of Dongyu. Wu Yu knew that as a monk, it was not appropriate for him to interfere with mortals, but he only said this to listen to the 9 regicides. Moreover, the issue of the East China Sea was his long-cherished wish before he ascended the throne. Yes, Zhu regicide grinned in pain and could only rely on the generals around him to support him. Roll. Yes, with the support of the 8 generals, 9 regicides rolled and crawled, leading their horses and leaving in a hurry. Wu Yu was too lazy to care about them. When Zhu regicide left, only Princess Wu Yu was left in front of him. This meeting felt like a lifetime ago. When Wu Yu and Princess Wu Yu hugged, a wave of cheers came from Wu Du. They sing about love. It's just that they don't know that this is actually not love, but a family relationship that is thicker than water. Although they have the same father and mother, to Wu Yu, this is no different from having the same father and mother. Sister. This time, Princess Wu Yu could survive. It was a way of risking her life to survive. In fact, Wu Yu had long been prepared to return to the West together. Since practicing Taoism, it seems that it has never been as thrilling as it is today. Zhao Chuan, Sidu Jin, Ye Gaiu, and Sidu Minglang were all defeated by Wu Yu with great confidence. Only in this battle with Ghost Princess, she was always on the edge of life and death. It's good to be alive. Princess Wu Yu patted his back. In fact, her tears had dried up. Now was a happy moment. She just wanted to feel Wu Yu's body temperature more. This is the best testimony that he is still alive. Looking at each other speechless. A smile can reveal everything. This disaster is over. I heard that Ghost Ji is over there in the East China Sea. There are 7 terrible masters called the 7 Immortals of the Red Sea. If you let the 9 regicides go, they will get the news. If they come here, then you. Wu Yu asked nervously. Although this battle is over, the trouble will not end. Wu Yu said, even if I don't let Zhu Jiajun go, the other party will still know about it. For us ascetics, this is unavoidable. Wu Yu knew in his heart that it was his duty to deal with ghost cultivators like Ghost Ji. Even if Feng Shui was standing here, with his personality, Wu Yu would kill this sinful woman. As for the 7 ghosts of Shihei, they are old ghosts of Feng Xia's level. As long as you tell Feng Xia about this matter, he will naturally handle it. Wu Yu plans to write a letter to Feng Shui tonight. Although carrier pigeons cannot fly up to the Bibo Mountains, Tianyunpeng can. Feng Shui protects his shortcomings. This is the benefit of being his disciple. Wu Yu told Wu Yu how he handled it, and Wu Yu breathed a sigh of relief. At this time, Wu Yu had already felt a naked gaze. It turned out to be the immortal Haoshan, standing behind him. Wu Yu has a certain understanding of his current situation. After the first level of the indestructible Vajra body is completed, it will be simply a strong iron frame, a reinforced iron frame, invulnerable to weapons, water, and fire. It has the power of thousands of war horses. Even if the arm is broken, it can be restored after being reattached. Physical defense power, the explosive power and recovery power are more than 10 times that of the 10th level of ordinary martial arts, surpassing ordinary chi condensation. This first level of the Vajra indestructible body is simply more powerful than any mortal body training method. Furthermore, I see that the Vajra indestructible body has a total of 10,000 words. I just practiced 1,000 words. There must be more later. After the true cultivation is completed, it will be as described in it. After completion, it will reach the sky. On earth, he will kill 8,000 heavenly palaces and break through 10,000 hells below. He has a bronze head and iron bones, and his body is like 1,000,000 pieces of gold. No immortal weapon can harm his body. The body cannot be destroyed by heavenly tribulations. In this first level, there is no death. Just the beginning. I just don't know when the Ruyi Golden Cudgel will let me have the second level of magic. Or is it possible that I will never get it? Maybe I can wait until I succeed in condensing energy. Wu Yu is now thinking about the gap between himself and Immortal Haoshan. After experiencing the battle with Ghost Lady, he roughly understood that Ghost Lady was basically at the second level of Qi condensation realm. His magic power is much stronger than Situ Ming Lang's. As for Immortal Haoshan, he vaguely suppressed Ghost Qi. Although he was usually restrained, he should be at the third level of Qi condensation realm. Zhang Junlin, who had not been seen for a long time, was even higher, at least the fourth level of Qi condensation realm or above. Wu Yu has now reached the 10th level of mortal body forging realm, the realm of martial arts and divine connection. Without using the immortal ape transformation, he has the power of tens of thousands of war horses. Many Qi condensation realm disciples cannot do this physically. Strength, unless those who have practiced the Taoist art of forging the physical body. There is also the unique skill of the magic stick. With all my strength, I can probably crush the second level of the Qi condensation realm. But facing Immortal Haoshan, who has been practicing Taoism for nearly 100 years, I'm probably still a little behind. I don't have much chance of winning, so I have to endure it for a while. This is the reason why Wu Yu is not in a hurry to directly conflict with Haoshan. Moreover, he must confirm that Zhang Junlin is not in Wudu. This Zhang Junlin is not only powerful, he is a genius on the level of Su Yanli, and he also has a distinguished status. Wu Yu knows very well that this is the person who should not be provoked. Now that I am in the 10th level of martial arts, I only need to consolidate my current state, and I can use the Qi condensing pill to figure out how to condense Qi. Once I succeed in condensing Qi, this Haoshan immortal will definitely not be my opponent. Looking at the immortal Haoshan coldly, Wu Yu had already clearly calculated the situation, gains and losses in his mind. Wu Yu had a hunch. In fact, with his current state of mind, and with the help of the Qi condensing pill, condensing Qi should be easier than martial arts. In Wudu, he has passed the most difficult hurdle. This Haoshan originally wanted Yuan Hao to unite with Dongshen Kingdom to expand the territory of Wu Kingdom in Dongyu. He also wanted to use Ghost Ji's hand to kill me to avenge Wanking. Unfortunately, it's ridiculous that he can't steal the chicken but lose the rice. Wu Yu knew what the other party was thinking, and immediately felt that the other party's sanctimonious appearance was very funny. Sure enough, the other party attacked. Sun Wudao, you are so confused. You are an immortal of the Tongtian sword sect, but you have feelings for a mortal. Let's not talk about it. You actually killed the ghost girl of the East China Sea for this mortal love. You are in big trouble this time. You really got into a big trouble. To tell you the truth, you will definitely die. Hao Qian was trembling. He was so stunned just now that the ghost girl died. He thought it would be Wu Yu who died at that moment. At that time, he was still lamenting the terrifying Taoist skills of Ghost Ji. In his eyes, Wu Yu was a dumb ass, so he put on a dumbfounded look and said forcefully, Haoshan, stop talking. I am sincere to Princess Wu Yu. This is God guiding me to Wu Yu after meeting her, I can't give up. As for offending the 7 ghosts of Shihei, don't worry about it. This is my own business and I will bear it myself. Can you afford it? If I were you, I would pack up and run away right now, Immortal Haoshan said with a sinister look. No, I am the supervisor of the Immortal Kingdom and I must stay here in Wudu. Don't worry, I don't care about your affairs. From today on, Princess Wu and I will be on the Immortal Peak and will not interfere with anything you do. If the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea attack you, you can blame them on me. I am sure that Zhang Junlin is here in Wu, and even the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea will not mess around, Wu Yu said. You take it, can you afford it? Haoshan Immortal sneered, but no matter what, this is really Wu Yu's own business, and Wu has Zhang Junlin, and he is indeed not afraid of the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea. He just resented Wu Yu for messing up his expansion of Suqiao territory. But this matter cannot be mentioned openly, because monks have taboos and cannot interfere with such national disputes. I will never implicate you, Wu Yu said. Immortal Haoshan felt angry. He glanced at Wu Yu and said, Son Wuodao, Wu Yu is my princess of Suqiao. If you want to be with her, you have to ask me what I want. He said this because he was anxious. Wu Yu was suddenly stunned and said, Haoshan, are you okay? It's true that Wu Yu is Princess Wu, but what does it have to do with you? You are just a disciple of the Xuanhuan Dao section. You are not Princess Wu's biological father. Why do you say that? Of course Wu Yu was not born to him. Wu Yu just used these words to stimulate him. After all, Yuan Hao and Yuan Chen were his real sons. At this time, Wu Yu also said, Haoshan Immortal, I am willing to go with him. It is my own freedom. The Queen Mother and Yuan Hao cannot make the decision. You should just leave it alone. Humph, Haoshan was shaking with anger and left angrily. /U003CE /U003E /U003CE /U003F. Follow the official QQ public account 17K, ID, Love 17K, read first, and get the latest information at any time /U003C/E /U003E /U003C/E /U003E. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 54. On the city wall of Wudu, in a corner that no one could see, there was a man wearing a fox fur coat. His eyes were as bright as stars, staring at Wu Yu and Immortal Haoshan outside Wudu. Next to this man, there was another slightly shorter man with a smile on his face. Standing next to this tall man, it was Yuan Chen, who looked similar to Yuan Hao but had a feminine temperament. The man wearing a fox fur coat, with a majestic appearance, and an unrivaled domineering figure was none other than Zhang Junlin. In fact, the two of them had already stood here and witnessed the entire battle. Zhang Junlin showed a curious smile and said, to be honest, this Sun Wuodao is a bit interesting. His method of physical training in the mortal body must be very outstanding. From beginning to end, he has no magic power or Taoism. I guess, it's just martial arts that connect the gods. Yuan Chen was in disbelief and said, how could the martial arts master behead the ghost girl who is at the second level of Qi condensing immortal root realm? Zhang Junlin patted his shoulder lightly and said with a smile, Yuan Chen, this world is so big, and there are many incredible methods. Let me tell you something more. In fact, I sent an interrogation to the sect, and there was no such thing. This information about Sun Wuodao. In other words, there are two possibilities. First, this Sun Wuodao does not belong to the Tongtian sword sect, and secondly, the name Sun Wuodao is a pseudonym. It's so. I think there is a big problem with this person and I must find out. Yuan Chen stared at Zhang Junlin with gentle eyes. Then Zhang Junlin said with dignity, to put it bluntly, I have asked people to investigate the list of the Tongtian sword sect's immortal kingdom supervisors this time. However, we have had a long-standing feud with the Tongtian sword section. If we want to get this list, it will be passed to us. Come on, it will probably take more than a month. It's been so long. By then, Shenzhenkyo will probably be mature. Yuan Chen can't wait any longer. After all, Wu Yu ruined his father's plan today. Okay, then I'll ask them to speed up and make sure they understand the origin of Sun Wuodao. Then what? How about castrating him? Wu Yu said he was taking Princess Wu to Shangxian Peak, but actually he sent her back to Wu Palace. Shangxian Peak is extremely high, the nights are cold, and there are many inconveniences in life. Princess Wu is immortal and cannot live up there for a long time. As for Wu Yu, he naturally moved to the practice room of Wushao Palace, but now he can show up in Wushao Palace without hesitation. When all the guards and maids saw him, they all knelt down and kowtowed devoutly, unable to stop him. After solving the ghost girl, Wu Yu immediately took Tian Yunpeng with his letter and flew back to the Bibo Mountains. After a while, Tian Yunpeng returned. Wu Yu got a letter from Su Yanli, which read: Master already knows about this, you don't have to worry, just stay in Wudu with peace of mind. This short sentence gave Wu Yu the greatest sense of security. Sure enough, Feng Xiya was Feng Xiya. Even if he was the direct disciple of Wu Yu who killed the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea, he didn't take it seriously. With Feng Shui's personality, I'm afraid she still wants to applaud Wu Yu, because the one Wu Yu killed was a ghost cultivator. The Kendo rule states, whenever you encounter demons or ghost cultivators, you must kill them within your power. In this case, Wu Yu no longer has to worry about the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea. He calmed down and concentrated on consolidating the magic stick, and at the same time, he moved towards a new realm, the Qi-condensing immortal root realm. Ghost Qi is truly worthy of being a disciple of the 7 ghosts of the Red Sea. In his bag of rice, Wu Yu found many things. Most of them are items specially used for ghost cultivation, and many of them are simply horrible to look at, such as goat heads, tiger livers and gallbladders, etc. There are even human severed hands, which are extremely bloody. Wu Yu discarded these items one by one, and only a few were left in the end. Some of these fairies can heal injuries, some can nourish the mind and activate blood circulation, and some can detoxify. Some of them can help my sister nurse herself back to health. She is too weak now. Wu Yu believed that by cooperating with his fairy spirit and letting Wu Yu practice a boxing technique to activate blood and nourish qi, her body would get better as soon as possible. Living a long life is not a problem. As for practicing Taoism, Wu Yu has no qualifications in this area. Except for some sundries, these 3 are the most important. In front of Wu Yu's eyes, there were 3 things. One is the empty bag of rice. The internal space was slightly larger than what Mo Shisha presented as a gift, so Wu Yu left it empty for now, preparing to give it to Qingmang later. The second is the soul-calling flag. Wu Yu planned to take this bloody and evil thing back to Tongtian sword sect and hand it over to Feng Shui. 3. There are 9 qi condensing pills. That's right, exactly 9. In addition, Wu Yu originally had 1, and now he has 10 qi condensing pills, which is already a huge amount of wealth. Qi condensing pill is a pill. Pills are extremely precious. It is said that only the golden pill immortal can use pill fire to refine immortal spirits and other materials according to certain steps, control the temperature of the fire, etc., and finally refine them into pills. The effectiveness of elixirs is of course much better than raw materials such as fairy spirits and treasures. Only the golden pill immortal can refine the qi condensing pill, and it requires energy, time, and materials, which is why the pill is so precious. In fact, ascetics who have entered the qi condensation realm will no longer use gold as currency. Gold is something for mortals and has basically no effect on them. Those used to make currency are either some precious materials or metals, such as the red flame gold that makes up the demon subduing stick. Of course, the most common one is qi condensing pill. Some magic tools, Taoist arts, and other rare treasures can be traded with qi condensation pills in the regular market or in private. This is a customary rule in the entire cultivation world, and it has been passed down for countless years. Qi condensation pills are very useful for cultivators in the qi condensation immortal root realm. First of all, the most important step from the mortal body to the qi condensation realm is that qi condensation pills can help condense qi and increase the chance of success. Secondly, even if you have already entered the qi condensation immortal root realm, qi condensation pills still have the function of nourishing and increasing mana. The cultivation of the qi condensation realm itself requires the consumption of a large number of qi condensation pills. This is exactly the resource for cultivation. Of course, the use of qi condensation pills also requires a cycle of gradual progress. Some cultivators with poor foundations can't consume many chi condensation pills at all. If you are greedy for merit and rush forward, it will only lead to infatuation and death. In the chi condensation immortal root realm, you naturally need to comprehend the way of heaven and cycle gradually, and chi condensation pills are used as an auxiliary. Even so, it can be seen that chi condensation pills are precious. 10 chi condensation pills are treasures to Wu Yu. Originally, I only had one, which might not allow me to successfully condense chi, but with 10, I will definitely be able to. He did not intend to leave any wealth for himself. As long as his body could withstand it, he did not mind swallowing them all. After all, it was ill-gotten gains. I have cultivated the Vajra indestructible body, so I should be able to withstand more chi condensation pills than ordinary people. Then Situ Minglang was able to enter the chi condensation realm so quickly. It is obvious that Lan Huayun gave him a lot of chi condensation pills. Now I am familiar with the Tongshen stick and have reached the peak of martial arts. Next, I will try to condense chi in a cycle. Wu Yu sat quietly in the practice room, asking Wu Yu not to disturb him. Chi condensation realm is the beginning of cultivation. For Wu Yu, it is a new world. In Tongtian Sword sect, only those who have reached the chi condensation realm can become core disciples. Moreover, the chi condensation realm has a very important meaning to him. That is, after condensing chi, he would have magic power, and combined with the divine power of 10,000 war horses in his body, he should have no problem defeating his mortal enemy, the immortal Haoshan. The day when chi condensation succeeds is the day to bloodbath the palace. Chi condensation realm. The so-called chi condensation realm is actually to absorb the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, and open up the source of law in the 10 spiritual orifices of the body. The source of law is the source of magic power. The 10 spiritual orifices are the 10 most important orifices in the body. Only when the 10 spiritual orifices are all opened up, the chi condensation is considered successful. It is said that only then will one be qualified to form a golden elixir and become a golden elixir immortal, which is the level of master. Wu Yu is still too far away from that level. Mortals fight with their flesh, while those in the condensation stage have mana and fight with mana. Mana is the condensation of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth after transformation. It is one's own strength and the source of power. With the help of Taoism, it can show incredible means, such as Zhang Junlin's bonfire and Ghost Ji's ghosts of wrath. For a cultivator, powerful mana is the real foundation for a long road ahead. Which of the 10 spiritual orifices in the body should be opened first is a matter of heaven's will. If you force it, you will defy heaven's will and you will die. First, the first spiritual orifice is the Tanzong point in the middle of the chest. The power of the first level of chi condensation is completely derived from the Tanzong point. After that, it is the Shenting point, Shenmen point, Taekong point, Ki point, Kuki point, Yongquan point, Sheng point, Mingmen point, Fengqi point. Among them, the fifth source of law is the Ki point. After refining the Ki point, it seems you must plant something called immortal root in the sea of Qi. There is a saying, without immortal root, you cannot become an immortal. It is said that this immortal root has a huge relationship with future prospects. People have innate qualifications, which is the body itself, and acquired qualifications, which is the immortal root. If the immortal root is good, then you will have a bright future. If the immortal root is poor, no matter how hard you try, it will be in vain. In the future, when I reach the 5th level of chi condensation, I will definitely find the best immortal root. Because of this, the second realm is called chi condensation immortal root realm. The immortal root is still far away from Wu Yu now. Now the most important thing for him is to open up the source of law in the Tanzong point on his chest. That immortal Haoshan probably has 3 sources of power, namely the Danshong point, Shenting point, and Shenmen point. I open the dance Hong point to assist the physical body and divine power, and then I will kill him. \U003CE \U003E \U003CE \U003F. Follow the official QQ public account 17K, ID, Love 17K, read the latest information at any time \U003C/E \U003E \U003C/E \U003E. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 55. 10 Qi Condensing Pills. Most people at the third level of the Qi condensation realm probably don't have such wealth. There may not be immortals in Haoshan. The ghost girl was favored by 7 masters, so she carried 9 of them with her. The average martial arts and spiritual realm cannot withstand 10 Qi condensing pills. Therefore, even if you have a lot of Qi condensing pills, the whole process of Qi condensing pills will be relatively long. Most of the time, the physical body of a martial artist can only withstand the power of 1 Qi condensing pill at the same time. As for me, my physical fitness is too good, so this process should be 1/3 or even 1/5 of that of ordinary people. After all, it was the first time to condense Qi. Wu Yu didn't care about being too messy. This first time, he took out 2 Qi condensing pills and prepared to use them at the same time to open the source of the law. Fortunately, there are 10 of them. If there was only 1, I would have to wait for a year before I could truly succeed in condensing energy. Wu Yu estimated that these 10 Qi condensing pills would allow him to open the first source of law within dozens of days. Of course, this was just an estimate. He didn't know how difficult it would actually be to implement. When opening the first magic source, the magic power is not particularly pure and easily escapes. You need to practice the Qi condensation technique to consolidate the magic power and even transform it to make it more powerful and even have fixed characteristics. When I left the Tongtian sword sect, my master did not give me the Qi condensation technique. It seems that after successfully condensing Qi, I have to return to the Tongtian sword sect. I hope I can kill my enemy before I go back. It was the anger of hatred in his heart that made Wu Yu resolutely take 2 Qi condensation pills, starting the intense and thrilling process of Qi condensation. In the practice room, 2 Qi condensing pills entered the body at the same time. When it entered the intestines and stomach through the esophagus, the Qi condensing pill melted into a stream of heat, thick and hot, rolling through Wu Yu's body like lava. For a moment, the burning pain made Wu Yu couldn't help shouting. He tensed up the muscles all over his body and veins popped out all over his body. Of course, his veins are actually golden. Call. Fortunately, his indestructible body made his body strong enough. Not only his bones and flesh, but also his internal organs were as tough as steel, so he could withstand even the heat like magma. After withstanding the first wave of scorching heat, the huge medicinal power of the Qi condensing pill began to penetrate into the body. Tanzong Point. There is no Qi condensation technique now, but Wu Yu still knows something about the simple Qi condensation technique. Through a kind of control over the inside of the body, the guidance of spirit and flesh and blood, he guided the majestic power of the Qi condensation pill to transfer to the Tanzong Point. When he was in the mortal body strengthening realm, Wu Yu had already destroyed the Tanzong Point and transformed it into a golden crystal point that is like a perseverance point in the body. This golden crystal point is more stable and stronger than ordinary people's orifices. 10 times. Therefore, when the power of the 2 Qi condensing pills entered the Tanzong Point, Wu Yu was able to withstand it. This made Wu Yu couldn't help but show joy. It turns out that the mortal body forging realm is so important to the Qi condensing immortal root realm. I have cultivated this indestructible body and forged the 10 spiritual orifices and internal organs. Therefore, when condensing Qi, I can endure it several times more than ordinary people. The Qi condensation realm seems to be more bearable. As long as I have the Qi condensation pill, my progress will be quite terrifying. The physical body is the foundation of magic power. The spiritual energy from heaven and earth is attracted to the acupoints, and the spiritual energy circulates to form a whirlpool of magic power, which is immortal, so it is the source of law. The chi condensing pill is made by mixing immortal spirits nourished by heaven and earth with other treasures. Most of its medicinal power is actually the spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Although the spiritual energy in Wudu is thin, it is better than having this chi condensing pill. Therefore, the power of the chi condensing pill is the huge amount of spiritual energy that Wu Yu needs. The Tanzong point is getting bigger under the nourishment of the medicine. This is part of the chi condensation method. In this process, the special characteristics of the 10 spiritual orifices are revealed. It is said that the human body is a treasure house. For example, it is currently undergoing an incredible change. Wu Yu's physical body and the spiritual energy of the chi condensing pill promoted each other, and under the control of the chi condensing technique, they moved in a certain direction. It can be seen that under the nourishment, the Tanzong point has grown to the point where it feels like a small world, with endless spiritual energy pouring into it. After a period of chaotic impact, under Wu Yu's control, day after day, it gradually a mana vortex was formed. That was the prototype of the Dharma source. Only when a real source of law and a real stable structure is formed can it be immortal and have infinite magic power be born. Let the entire Tanzong point be filled with Wu Yu's magic power. This source of magic, in the final analysis, is actually a transformation mechanism that transforms the aura of heaven and earth into my magic power. Of course, it is obvious that the entire source of magic includes this vortex and my Tanzong appointment. The vortex of mana and the Tanzong appointment together form a source of magic and are a whole. Wu Yu was amazed by the wonder of cultivation. This is just the first step in cultivating the Tao. I'm afraid there will be endless roads in the future. At least Wu Yu knew that Feng Xia was actually called the Golden Elixir Immortal, but he was not a real immortal. I'm afraid even Feng Xia Cliff has a long way to go. After embarking on this path, Wu Yu's knowledge also improved. I haven't reached the chi condensation realm yet. My Tanzong point Dharma source is just a prototype and needs to be forged to make the entire Dharma source complete. Only then can it be considered a real chi condensation. When I first met Situ Ming Liang, I guess his Dharma source had already taken shape. That's why I was confident that I could definitely condense chi. Today, the mana whirlpool is still unstable and can only be maintained by the power of the chi condensing pill. It is in a swaying state, and the entire Tanzong point is not mature. However, I can use some mana a little bit. The current Wu Yu is considered to be at less than half of the chi condensation realm. It turns out that the magic source is like this. In other words, as long as the opponent's magic source is destroyed, the opponent will have no magic power and become a useless person with only the power of a mortal. Through his own experience, Wu Yu understood the wonders of Taoism bit by bit. The 2 chi condensing pills had been consumed, and Wu Yu opened his eyes. The practice room was completely empty, but his vision changed somewhat, and the world he saw became clearer. Naturally, even between heaven and earth, there was always some charm that was difficult to grasp, which was extremely wonderful. I'm afraid, this is the way. From now on, I have 1 foot on the path of immortality. There are still 8 chi condensing pills in his hand, and Wu Yu is about to take 2 more pills to continue refining and strive to reach the chi condensing realm as soon as possible. After all, just consuming 2 chi condensing pills, the first step, took nearly 10 days. However, at this time, he found someone outside the practice room. Of course, she had not just arrived, but had been waiting outside for a long time, but she did not disturb Wu Yu. It's Wu Yu. If nothing happened, how could she wait? What happened? Wu Yu opened the stone door of the practice room, and sure enough, Wu Yu was standing outside the door. When she looked up, her face was a little ugly, her eyes were reddish, and there was some anger in her brows. The head of my mother's family, who is also my uncle, was assassinated at home the night before. I only got the news early in the morning. The deceased was the younger brother of Wu Yu's mother, a big shot in charge of her mother's clan. He often came to Wuda to pay homage to the Holy Emperor, and Wu Yu had also met him several times. That man had a very good relationship with Wu Yu. Did immortal Haoshan do this? Wu Yu's anger immediately rose. Now he is practicing with great concentration just for revenge. The other party did such a thing at this time. No. Wu Yu shook his head and said, he has a high status and should not do such a thing. With Wu Du's current situation, neither you nor I want to cause trouble, and Haoshan is too lazy to trouble us. Who is that? Wu Yu said, it should be Yuan Hao. He has been impulsive and irritable since he was a child, and he has a character that requires revenge. This time I didn't marry to the Eastern God Kingdom. He couldn't harm me. He probably did such childish things because he was angry in his heart. Wu Yu thought about it. If that was really the case, then only Emperor Yuan Hao would be so stupid. I said I would protect your mother's clan, this Yuan Hao. Wu Yu picked up the demon-killing stick and was about to go to the palace. Wu Yu, no. Wu Yu stopped him and said, as you said, you are not Haoshan's opponent yet. It's better to avoid causing trouble at this time. If you can bear it, bear with it. I will ask other members of the mother clan to be careful. What Wu Yu said made sense. Wu Yu had only managed to condense his energy to less than half of his strength. It was obviously not a particularly cost-effective way to directly conflict with Haoshan because of a fool like Yuan Hao. Yuan Hao, he must die too. Wu Yu was too lazy to deal with him, but the opponent repeatedly kicked his nose and face, which had exceeded the limit of Wu Yu's endurance. Just when Wu Yu was about to continue practicing, news suddenly came that the Emperor Yuan Hao came to Wu Yu Palace at this time and asked Wu Yu to go to the front hall to meet him. I'm afraid I'm here to show off my power. Wu Yu asked Wu Yu not to show up yet. She went to the front hall alone, and sure enough she saw the arrogant Yuan Hao sitting on a high seat, looking down at Wu Yu with a sneer. Wu Yu, when you see me, you still don't kneel down and salute. Now that Wu Yu is here, Wu Yu doesn't need to be afraid of him. Her uncle was assassinated, so why is she not angry in her heart? At this time, she looked at Yuan Hao coldly and said, Wu Yu, will not be a sneaky person. What? Yuan Hao was just proud, but he immediately became angry. He thought highly of himself. At this time, he ran down angrily with his dragon robe in hand and said angrily, Wu Yu, you are so brave, dare to say such a thing to me. Well, don't you know that I, Yuan Hao, am the current emperor? Wu Yu's expression was cold, but with her personality, she had never bowed her head to Yuan Hao. He actually came here to show off his power. Seeing Wu Yu didn't respond, he laughed angrily and said, actually, you really want to kill me, but you don't dare, right? Let me tell you the truth, your uncle was killed by me. What's wrong with you? Will you dare to touch me? Didn't you use this shameless honey trap to seduce Sun Wuodao? What can Sun Wuodao do to me? In Wudu, there are Immortal Haoshan, Immortal Zhang Junlin, and my brother Yuan Chen. Here. It is precisely with these assurances that he feels confident to come here. Of course, he has a huge relationship with his stupidity and impulsiveness. After all, he has been suppressed by Wu Yu since he was a child, and was called a waste. After finally turning over, how could he not take revenge? Crack. Just when Yuan Hao's face was confident as he approached Wu Yu on the side didn't even expect that she would actually raise her hand and give Yuan Hao a big slap in the face, making Yuan Hao's face turn red. It looks like rouge powder. Bitch, if you dare to hit the current emperor, I will have your head chopped off. Yuan Hao was furious. /U003CE /U003E /U003CE /U003F. Follow the official QQ account 17K, ID, Love 17K, read early, and keep abreast of the latest information /U003C/E/U003E/U003C/E/U003E. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Feng-Qing Yang. Chapter 56. Seeing Yuan Hao baring his teeth and trying to fight with Wu Yu couldn't stand it anymore. He appeared in front of Yuan Hao and directly caught Yuan Hao's slap towards Wu Yu. Son Wuidao, get out of the way. Otherwise, my father will kill you. Yuan Hao was so excited that his eyes were red, and he was so angry that he even said the word father with this excitement and anger. Unfortunately, Wu Yu held him down and he couldn't move at all. Who is your father? How many kilograms does he have? Wu Yu smiled. Who is my father? Immortal Haoshan. Get out of here. That Yuan Hao was really crazy. He was slapped by a female prostitute. With his personality, he will probably remember it for the rest of his life. Isn't Immortal Haoshan an immortal? It seems that he married the current queen mother and gave birth to Yuan Chen. Wu Yu held Yuan Hao down with one hand and raised it with the other. Only then did Yuan Hao realize that he had let slip. However, there were only Wu Yu here, and it wasn't like they were telling the world, so he wasn't afraid. When he saw Wu Yu looking at him with disgust, the anger in his heart still overwhelmed his reason. Son Wuidao, get out of here, Yuan Hao roared sternly. The guards guarding outside heard the sound, and more than 20 guards in armor rushed in. Who's going to get out? Wu Yu raised his hand and slapped Yuan Hao on the corner of his mouth. He still withdrew his force, but Yuan Hao was still beaten to pieces and screamed miserably, as if he was killing a pig. Say, who's going to get out? Another slap. Puff. Yuan Hao spat out his teeth and his mouth was already full of blood. Sunday. Son Wuidao, you will not die well, he cried and yelled. The guards next to him were all frightened. This was an immortal, and they didn't dare to come forward. Who doesn't deserve a good death? Another slap. Click. At this time, Yuan Hao lost all his teeth. An emperor without teeth is also funny to talk about. Never mind. This guy was used to being arrogant. Wu Yu wanted to slap him a few times, but Wu Yu stopped him at this time. Wu Yu then stopped, threw Yuan Hao on the ground, and said to the guard beside him, take this trash back to the palace, don't be embarrassed here. Yes. The guards were so frightened that they immediately raised Yuan Hao and ran out without turning his head. Only Yuan Hao was still struggling. Although his speech was unclear, he still shouted angrily, Wu Yu, son Wuidao. You will not die well. You will go to hell. After a while, the sound disappeared. Wu Yu was helpless, shook his head and said, it's all my fault. I couldn't control myself. I was too impulsive. Wu Yu said, many things in this world are beyond my control. For example, if others come to seek death, don't worry. Even if Haoshan really wants to fight with me, he will not choose Wuda here. Moreover, unless there are extreme circumstances, they will also take my identity into consideration. Will he stand up for Yuan Hao this time? With Empress Dowager Yuan 11 as my pillow, I will definitely do it. Not long after Wu Yu finished speaking, the roar of the crane and horse sounded in the sky of Wuyusuk Palace. With a roar, the crane horse descended on the front yard of Wuyusuk Palace. Wu Yu's Tianyunpeng was also there. For a moment, the two spiritual beasts met, confronted each other, and hated each other, causing a huge commotion. Tianyunpeng and Hema are both tamed, so there is no immortal order. They will not really fight, but just demonstrate to each other. Son Wuidao. As soon as a majestic shout came out, the upright immortal Haoshan, who was wearing Bagua Taoist robes, white eyebrows and white hair, strode in from the front door. He stared at Wu Yu with his tiger eyes, and with his magic power, he suppressed Wu Yu's aura instantly, but it was not absolute suppression. So strong. This was the first time I saw Haoshan come to suppress me. There were 3 sources of power. As expected, he was so majestic that he seemed to control the whole scene. Now that Wu Yu has just got the prototype of the magic source, he can roughly feel that the magic power is entrenched in 2 places on Haoshan's chest and forehead. There are 2 more hidden places, which are on Haoshan's left and right wrists, which are the divine gates. Where the hole is. Because there are 2 Shenmen acupoints, the source of the 3rd level of Qi condensation realm is actually composed of 2 parts. The sum of these 2 parts is approximately equal to 1 source of law. In terms of frontal combat, it is indeed very dangerous at this time. What's the matter? Wu Yu stood firm, protected Wu Yu behind him, and withstood the oppression of the Haoshan immortal with his flesh and blood body. Watch the move. Immortal Haoshan was indeed overbearing. As soon as he entered the door, he took action without saying anything. Wu Yu noticed the whisk in his hand. He had seen this whisk when he was still immortal. Little did I know at that time that this whisk was actually a magical weapon. Brush. Immortal Haoshan waved the fly whisk, and the silver threads on it suddenly stretched and condensed into a big silver snake. Then all the silver threads seemed to have been burned by fire and turned red. It was like a big fire snake, moving towards Wu Yu. Come on. Buzz. Without saying a word, Wu Yu pushed Wu Yu out of the front hall, reached for the demon-subduing stick behind him, and violently pulled it out, colliding with the whisk in an instant. This time, Wu Yu was suppressed and used a little bit of mana to gather the divine power of thousands of war horses in his physical body. When there was a crisp sound and a roar, and the entire front hall of Sanssouci Palace collapsed, and dust filled the sky for a while. Puff! Wu Yu was knocked out and almost lost his hold on the demon-subduing stick. He rolled on the ground a few times before he stood up. Although he was not injured, he was still disgraced. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. Fortunately, Wu Yu was pushed out from the beginning, otherwise she would have been buried alive at this time. With Wu Yu's strength, of course he made her fall lightly to the ground. Wu. In desperation, Wu Yu almost called out Wu Yu's name, but luckily she kept her mouth shut. At this time, Wu Yu stood up and said, "You step back first." Good. Wu Yu knew that she could not be of much help at this time, so she quickly fled far away. A battle of this level was too shocking for a mortal, and she was also in a state of confusion at this time. At this moment, Immortal Haoshan jumped up from the dust and landed in front of Wu Yu's eyes spotlessly, which was much better than Wu Yu's disgraced appearance. He did not take action again, but looked at Wu Yu with an indifferent expression and said, "A few days ago, you just reached the martial arts realm, and now you have begun to condense your qi, and it seems that there are results. Your speed is too fast. Well, when I tried it, I found that your combat power is almost as good as mine." Wu Yu didn't know what kind of medicine this old fox was selling in his gourd. He said, "Stop flattering me. I'm still far behind you." When Na Haoshan heard this, he sneered and said, "In that case, why do you act like I don't exist and actually attack a mortal emperor in Wudu? Your behavior breaks the rules of our immortal way. Be careful if your master pulls you back." As soon as he came over, he gave Wu Yu a slap in the face, and then he was probably surprised by Wu Yu's improvement in cultivation, so he didn't continue to suppress him. Instead, he used words to threaten him. Wu Yu suppressed the murderous intention in his heart and said, "You are wrong, how can you not ask the reason? First of all, it was the mortal emperor who assassinated Wu Yu's uncle and came to provoke him. This is not enough. As a mortal, he is still right, I'm rude, and if a mere mortal dares to tell me to get out, he won't know what the world is like if I don't educate him. Now I am a few steps away from successfully condensing energy, and I don't know if Zhang Junlin is in Wudu. This is the time when I absolutely cannot fight the opponent directly. Wu Yu could only suppress his monstrous murderous intentions. However, seeing the sanctimonious face of immortal Haoshan, the scenes of the night when the soul was broken kept emerging, as well as bits and pieces of his father. Wu Yu knew very little about the late emperor. He only knew that he was an emperor who loved great achievements and had a bad temper. However, at least he thought highly of himself and allowed himself to become the prince. This is the grace of procreation and cultivation. Haoshan. He held down the demon-subduing stick firmly. Now, Wu Yu is still behind him. Immortal Na Haoshan said, Yuan Hao assassinated her uncle. He really didn't know about this, but when he heard it was Yuan Hao's doing. However, Immortal Haoshan didn't take it seriously and said, Son Wudao, you are really wrong. Wu Yu is just immortal. You are obsessed with her and even break the rules of our immortal way. Let me tell you, if you continue to be so stubborn, if so, I will take the place of your sect and clean up the sect. Wu Yu couldn't help laughing when he heard these self-righteous words. Why are you laughing? Haoshan's hand holding the fly whisk had veins popping out. That's the fire cloud whisk, a pretty good magic weapon. Wu Yu said. I laughed. What you said is really interesting. How interesting? Wu Yu sneered and said, just now, when the mortal Emperor Yuan Hao threatened me, he might have been mad. He even called you father, and kept saying that he wanted his father to kill me. What I mean is, you gave birth to an emperor with a mortal queen mother, why are you still taking care of me? Isn't this a thief's cry to catch the thief? Son Wudao. Buzz. Upon hearing this, the eyes of immortal Haoshan were about to burst out with fire. Judging from his posture and mana gushing out, he was probably about to take action. I think it's fine if you know this and I know it, so there's no need to get angry. I'm in Wuda just to accompany Wu Yu. If your son doesn't come to provoke us, everything will be fine. Facing the furious opponent, Wu Yu said calmly. Son Wudao, I won't care about it this time. Don't let it happen again. After all, it was indeed Yuan Hao who was stupid and came to the door on his own, and he was at fault. Moreover, in the blink of an eye, Wu Yu was no longer someone he could easily control. It seemed that he had considered it carefully before leaving a harsh word and turning around to leave. This breakthrough is over. Wu Yu was breathing a sigh of relief when suddenly a shrill bird song came from the front yard. Tianyunpeng. /U003CE /U003E /U003CE /U003F. Follow the official QQ account 17K, ID, Love 17K, read early, and keep abreast of the latest information /U003C/E /U003E /U003C/E /U003E. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 57. Wu Yu was shocked and rushed to the front yard. At this time, Immortal Haoshan soared into the sky on a crane horse and headed towards the imperial city with a dull look on his face. Wu Yu took a closer look and saw that there was a river of blood in the front yard. The white Tianyunpeng was already limp on the ground and dying. A huge hole was opened in its heart, and all the blood was released. In the blink of an eye, his life was gone. The immortal Haoshan. The other party had destroyed his own mount, so it would be quite inconvenient for Wu Yu to escape, return to the Tongtian sword sect, or travel around, etc. You can only walk to the Tongtian sword sect and get another Tianyunpeng. This is another show of force. This conflict really made Haoshan's immortal energy go crazy, and he even did such despicable things. However, that's the kind of person he is. Tianyunpeng. After accompanying him for some years, Wu Yu has some feelings for Tianyunpeng, and now he can't bear to look at it. This hatred has added another dimension. Wu Yu looked in the direction of the imperial city. He took a deep breath, exchanged a few words with Wu Yu, and then returned to the practice room. He would continue to condense his energy until he succeeded. I'm afraid that would be the day of revenge. Imperial Palace, Taiyu Palace. This is the palace of Emperor Yuan Hao. Because Emperor Yuan Hao was injured, the entire palace was frightened. In the Taiyu Palace, more than a dozen imperial doctors were waiting and had already treated Yuan Hao's wounds. However, because all the teeth were lost in Sansu Palace, there is no way to put them back in place. Without the teeth, it will be a problem to eat in the future. Fortunately, the immortal Haoshan is here, so I guess it can be done. The Emperor Yuan Hao, with a face full of grief and anger, was lying on the dragon bed, his face swollen like a pig's head. Several imperial doctors had hurt him, and he ordered them to be pushed out and beheaded on the spot. Now all the imperial doctors were pale with fear, and even the many concubines and palace maids who were assisting him were trembling. The Queen Mother UN-11 was sitting by the bed, her face was pale, she was holding Yuan Hao's hand, her eyes were bloodshot, and there was a faint light. At this moment, there was the roar of a crane and a horse outside. Everyone get out. After all, it wasn't life-threatening. When the immortal Haoshan returned, of course he let a group of mortals out. Everyone was relieved and left quickly, not wanting to stay here at all. In the blink of an eye, immortal Haoshan appeared beside the bed. The Emperor Yuan Hao immediately sat up. Although his mouth was covered, he still babbling and asked, "Father, have you killed Sun Wuodao and Wu Yu? I hang their corpses on the city gate and feed them to the crows." As soon as he said this, immortal Haoshan slapped Yuan Hao on the face again without saying a word. This move was harder than Wu Yu's. Yuan Hao immediately fell on the dragon bed and howled miserably. "You're a waste. If you hadn't caused the trouble, why would I be so angry? I've lost all my face to you, and you still said to Sun Wuodao that I'm your father. I don't have a son like you, a waste. I can't practice Taoism. Your brain is not that good either, you are far inferior to Yuan Chen, you are not even as good as Wu Yu." Immortal Haoshan was really mad. She gave birth to 2 sons, one of whom was extremely competitive and even had a good relationship with the sect leader's son, and the other who was a complete loser. Even if he became a mortal emperor, he was a loser. When Na Yuan Hao heard this, he was greatly shocked and cried with tears of blood. Master, Yuan Hao is still young, please forgive him." UN-11 also cried anxiously and quickly stopped immortal Haoshan, otherwise Yuan Hao would really be beaten to death. "I will get angry when I see him." Immortal Haoshan glared at Yuan Hao and said angrily, "You should reflect on it carefully during these days. Don't take care of him, let him fend for himself." Okay, UN-11 quickly sent immortal Haoshan away. She was also frightened. After all, she had never seen him so angry before. The two returned to Zai's palace, and UN-11 kept telling him to calm down. When they returned here, they probably understood the whole story. Yuan Hao is really messing around this time, and he blames me for my incompetence in teaching him. UN-11 snuggled into Haoshan's arms and sobbed, looking like a little woman that I felt pity for. There's nothing wrong with what he did. The only mistake was that he came to show off his power. After being beaten, he still talked nonsense. Yuan Hao became a mortal emperor. He was too anxious. The immortal Haoshan spat. "I think, in fact, he admires you too much, so he doesn't know how high the sky is. But there is indeed a problem with Sun Wuodao. Master, how are you going to deal with him?" UN-11 quickly changed the topic to Wu Yu, otherwise he's still angry. Hearing this name, immortal Haoshan calmed down at this time. He thought about it and said, "Actually, I can kill him today, but there is the Tongtian sword sect behind him. Although Zhang Junlin is here, we have nothing to do, but there will always be trouble in the long run, so bear with it. However, Sun Wuodao should not be very old. What worries me even more is that not only does he have a terrifying physical body in the mortal body forging realm, but the speed of his cultivation progress is also really terrifying. This time he actually blocked my attack. And is still condensing energy. That's it? UN-11 finally understood why Haoshan was so angry. After all, Wu Yu was someone he wanted to kill but couldn't. She thought about it for a while and suddenly said, "Master, I have some ideas and some things must be done cleanly and decisively." "You always have ideas, tell me." With this beauty nestled in his arms, Haoshan Immortal's temper became better. UN-11 said, "It will definitely not work if you kill Sun Wuodao yourself. Now that Yuan Chen and Zhang Junlin have a good relationship, Zhang Junlin is willing to do things for Yuan Chen. In this case, we let Yuan Chen take action and let him say more in front of Zhang Junlin a few words. What kind of identity is Zhang Junlin? Even if he killed Sun Wuodao on the spot in Wudu, as long as Sun Wuodao offended him, the Tongtian sword sect would not take revenge on Zhang Junlin because of a mere disciple. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. Furthermore, to the outside world, Yuan Chen has royal blood. He is an immortal from Suqiao. He can let Zhang Junlin occupy Suqiao for him. Suqiao itself is barren. For large sects, 1 or 2 mortals the country is nothing. Maybe they will sell this face and give it directly to Yuan Chen and Zhang Junlin. From then on, this large piece of land will always be yours. Anything produced here will still be yours. The Tongtian sword sect has not cared about this place for decades, but it suddenly wants to take care of it again. This shows that they don't care much about it. Furthermore, there are so many fairy countries around. To the mortal world, the power of Suqiao is strong, but to the immortals, the spiritual energy is poor. Sun Wuodao was sent to this place with the least oil and water among the supervisors of the fairy countries. Obviously, his status in the Tongtian sword sect is not high, and some people are resentful. UN-11 talked a lot and finally finished. In short, let Zhang Junlin destroy Sun Wuodao, occupy Suqiao, and then give it to Yuan Chen, which means it is given to you. This Suqiao seems barren, but a lot of treasures have been produced over the years, and all of them have gone into Master's pocket. This is a treasure land. After saying that, UN-11 took Immortal Haoshan's arm and laughed softly, the sound making people ripple. Very good, let's do it this way. Now Zhang Junlin and the others are waiting for the fruit to mature. When they come back, I will ask Yuan Chen to take action. This kid Yuan Chen is really much better than Yuan Hao Haoshan Immortal. He held his hands up and said with emotion. Is 11er smart? Clever? Then, Master, it's been a long time since you pampered me. He. A few days later. In Taiyu Palace. Late at night, Yuan Hao sat in the corner of the dragon bed with ferocious eyes. Like a wounded beast. I, Yuan Hao, am the majestic king of a country, and I rule hundreds of millions of Wu people. This world is my world. My father suppresses me, so forget it. As the queen mother, my mother does not give me any power to govern the country. She decides everything. I am like a puppet. They too will only treat me as a waste. That Yuan Chen is so superior that he didn't even look at me after he came back. We are brothers, why is our fate so unfair? He is in heaven and I am on earth. As an emperor, I still have to be insulted. Forget it all. We are all brothers and parents, and I have the lowest status. But now, Wu Yu, this bitch, has stepped on top of my head. He used his beauty to seduce a stupid monk. He shows off his power to me. A prostitute dares to slap me. Look down on me. I am the emperor, and she dares to look down on me. Does she think she can be lawless by seducing Sun Wuodao? Wu Yu, you bitch, how dare you slap me? I, Yuan Hao, will make you taste all the pain in the world, let you be raped by thousands of people, and throw you to the street and quarter your body. Xuanhuan growled and pounded the bed. Because of the Immortals' precious medicine, he has recovered a lot in the past few days, and his mouth is not so swollen. Come here. Send Marshal Wu to the palace and come see me. Yes. Late at night, Marshal Wu hurriedly dressed up and entered the Taiyu palace. Greetings to your majesty. Xuanhua's eyes were ferocious. He crawled to the bedside, handed a soldier talisman into the hands of Marshal Wu, and said word by word, Marshal Wu, I order you to set off overnight, lead the Zhendong army to Jialan County, and capture Wu. We will kill all the Yuma clan. If there is any trouble left, come to me with your head. Your Majesty, Marshal Wu was trembling with fear. This was a big deal. Go, besides, if you go to my mother to discuss this, I will kill you right now. Yes. At this time, Xuanhuan was really terrible. Marshal Wu took the order and set off overnight. Anyway, he was taking the emperor's order. If something happened, it was the emperor's business. Furthermore, Xuanhuan had already told him about leading the Zhendong army to annihilate Wu Yu's mother clan, but he was unable to do so because Wu Yu followed Sun Wuodao. That night, the flames of war rushed toward the east. At the same time, Wu Yu was in the practice room, taking the 5th and 6th Qi condensing pills. /U003CE /U003E /U003CE /U003F. Follow the official QQ account 17K, ID, Love 17K, read early, and keep abreast of the latest information. /U003C/E /U003E /U003C/E /U003E. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 58. There are a total of 6 Qi condensing pills, and their medicinal power is basically concentrated in the source of the law. One Qi condensing pill is at least equivalent to a month of hard work absorbing the spiritual energy of heaven and earth to consolidate and transform it. Ghost Qi's wealth actually saves me a lot of time. There are 4 left. Wu Yu estimated that by refining all the remaining Qi condensing pills and consolidating them, the magic source of Tanzong Point would be stable. He can be regarded as officially entering the ranks of monasticism and possessing magical power. Now, after condensing the power of 6 Qi condensing pills, his mana vortex has become 3 times larger than before. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network rightward arrow. The same is true for the Tanzong Point. On weekdays, it absorbs the spiritual energy of heaven and earth from all around and replenishes it into the source of the law. When these mana is used in battle, it will greatly enhance Wu Yu's power, at least much stronger than the last time he fought against Haoshan Immortal. The only point is that the current magic source is not stable and is not suitable for fierce fighting. If the Tanzong Point is injured, it is likely to cause the entire magic source to collapse. At that time, the violent magic power will have to tear Wu Yu apart. In fact, during the process of condensing mana, people usually choose to retreat until the source of the law is truly successful and stable, and then they will come out of seclusion. There are no conditions for retreat in Wudu. It has been 18 days since the beginning of Qi condensation. I will try to complete the Qi condensation within a month. Judging from the current situation, the indestructible body of Vajra is very stable. Wu Yu was being careful. In fact, with his body's toughness and the powerful absorption capacity of his body, he would probably have no problem taking down 4 Qi condensing pills in one wash. However, there were 4 pieces left, so Wu Yu chose to divide them into 2 pieces just to be on the safe side. In a dozen days at most, everything will be done, Haoshan. Wu Yu's eyes were filled with blood. Now, a debt from Tianyunpeng has been added. Wu Yu put 2 Qi condensing pills in his hands and was about to take them. Just then, Wu Yu was actually beating the stone door. Fortunately, she was a step too slow and hadn't taken the qi condensing pill yet. Otherwise, if there was trouble on her side, and Wu Yu still had to refine the qi condensing pill, he would easily make mistakes due to his turbulent mood. He quickly put the qi condensing pill into the Mi's bag and reached the door in a few steps. When he opened the stone door, he saw Wu Yu's face was pale and anxious. He cried with anger and said, "Wu Yu, I got the news. Starting yesterday, Marshal Na Wu led the 30,000 Zhendong army to attack my mother clan." "What? This is crazy. The last time Yuan Hao messed around, Wu Yu had already taught him a lesson. Logically speaking, such a thing would never happen. Although Wu Yu's mother clan has some power, it cannot withstand the attack of the 30,000 Zhendong army. It is obvious that it cannot last for a few days, and there will inevitably be huge casualties. Either the immortal Haoshan is planning to fight me to the death, or this is the order that Yuan Hao made privately." Because his brain was filled with water, Wu Yu was still calm and analyzed quickly. "What should we do?" Wu Yu was anxious. She was usually calm, but now it was about the life and death of thousands of members of his mother's clan. "You protect yourself and hide, I'll go to the palace." Wu Yu asked her to hide in the practice room to prevent even Wu Yu from being plotted while he was away. After confirming that Wu Yu was safe, he prepared to go to the palace. "Don't be impulsive," Wu Yu warned. Before he finished speaking, Wu Yu left. "Although I am still a little short of being able to successfully condense qi, I must stop the Zhendong army." Now that Wu Yu didn't have Tianyun Peng, he didn't have enough time to rush to the battlefield. The best way was to let Yuan Hao use flying pigeons to send a message and order the troops to withdraw, so that the matter would be solved. It was just dawn at this time, it should be morning court time, and Yuan Hao should be in the Shangqian palace. Wu Yu passed through the palace wall and saw the most magnificent Shangqian palace at a glance. Sure enough, it was the morning of the court, and many princes and ministers were in the court. Most of them were here to witness Wu Yu's dethronement that night. "People." Bang. Wu Yu landed outside the door. "Wow." The princes and ministers were startled, and turned around one after another. They were about to curse, but when they saw that it was Wu Yu, they were panicked at first, and then one by one, with their backs to Yuan Hao on the dragon chair, they knelt down in front of Wu Yu and shouted, "Sun Shangxian." Even Prince Yao and others who had insulted him at the beginning also knelt down and worshipped. However, Wu Yu only had Yuan Hao in his eyes. Yuan Hao was wearing a gorgeous dragon robe and sitting on the dragon chair. When he saw Wu Yu, his face turned pale and he looked slightly nervous. The order was made out of emotion, but the emperor kept his word and he struggled for several days without rescinding the order. At this time, seeing Wu Yu approaching in a menacing manner, he immediately became anxious and ordered the people around him to invite Immortal Haoshan. He then plucked up the courage and said, "Sun Shangxian, I'm waiting to discuss national affairs. Immortals should not be able to interfere with mortal matters, right, in front of me, the prince and ministers of Suqiao, please don't mess around." When he talked about it later, he felt nervous and regretted. Now he just prayed that Immortal Haoshan could come and destroy Sun Wuodao. He always felt that Haoshan could do this, but he didn't understand why Sun Wuodao didn't die last time. He felt that there might be an excuse missing. If Sun Wuodao attacks me here and interferes with mortal affairs, my father will have an excuse to kill him. This idea is Yuan Hao's only hope. Sure enough, in the blink of an eye, Wu Yu was standing in front of Yuan Hao. Yuan Hao remembered the slap in the face and fell to the ground in fright, hesitating. "You, what are you going to do? You are an immortal, do you want to kill me?" This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. Wu Yu was too lazy to talk nonsense with him. He grabbed Yuan Hao's dragon robe and lifted him up. The overbearing pressure of being an immortal was suppressed in Yuan Hao's mortal eyes, and Yuan Hao was immediately stunned. "Wow! The princes and ministers were trembling with fear and quickly asked Sun Shangxian to show mercy. Wu Yu's voice suppressed everyone, and he said, Yuan Hao, recall the Zhendong army immediately, otherwise, I will not simply knock out your teeth. Yuan Hao also quibbled and said, what is the Zhendong army? The Zhendong army is a mortal matter, why did the immortal intervene? Help, the immortal wants to kill me. He was being smart and thought that this would give immortal Haoshan an excuse to kill Wu Yu. To be honest, he was so nervous that he lost control of his urine and even lost control of his urine. Wu Yu changed his hands and pressed on his neck, saying, I'll give you another chance to recall the Zhendong army. Killing people. Yuan Hao's face was pale, and he was waving his limbs randomly, completely acting like a villain. Because of this, he was difficult to deal with. For a time, the palace was in chaos. The princes and ministers shouted and fled from Shangqian Palace in panic. Sun Shangxian wants to kill me as the emperor. Oh my god. In the midst of these panicked shouts, there was a sudden thunder and explosion in the palace harem, and a white light directly collapsed the palace wall of Shangqian Palace and entered the Shangqian Hall. It was the Haoshan Immortal. At this time, Immortal Haoshan's hair was flying, and his eyes were like lightning. As soon as he came, he saw Wu Yu pinching Yuan Hao, and he immediately roared, Sun Wudao, let him go. Just when Wu Yu explained right and wrong clearly, Yuan Hao screamed, he wants to kill me. He wants to kill me. I can't breathe, please save me. She was crying and crying at the same time. It was really miserable. Whoosh. Without saying a word, the immortal Haoshan swept the fire cloud whisk in his hand towards Wu Yu. Under the sweep of the magic power, many tables and chairs in the Shangqian hall were instantly shattered, and all the lights on the wall were smashed. He was really cruel. If Wu Yu didn't let go at this time, Yuan Hao would be dead. When the time comes, the blame will be placed on Wu Yu, and he will have to take the blame and let his opponent find an excuse to kill him. Things have reached this point. He threw Yuan Hao out and caught the attack with his demon-subduing stick. This time they are quite evenly matched. Haoshan, listen to me, Yuan Hao. Wu Yu came here today. He didn't want to conflict with him, but he had to let the Zhendong army retreat. After all, Yuan Hao was the emperor, and only his orders were valid for the mortal army. You're looking for death. However, Immortal Haoshan had obviously accumulated the anger of the past few days and released it today. Now he was so angry that he held the fire cloud whisk in one hand and the magic formula in the other hand, and he actually wanted to perform Taoist magic. This is a fight? The situation was intense and it was not Wu Yu's turn to explain. The Taoist technique of Haoshan Shangxian is called Blue Root Fire. Under the sweep of magic power, his whisk condensed into a long silver snake. At this moment, a green flame was born in the left hand of Immortal Haoshan. The flame took the shape of a green snake and instantly hovered on the fire cloud whisk. It condensed into one with the fly whisk, releasing bursts of clouds and mist, filling the entire Shanghan hall like burning clouds. And in the clouds and mist, a big green snake was rolling ferociously. What a powerful Taoist skill, but it's a pity that I don't have it. Wu Yu felt a little regretful. It would have been better if Feng Shui had given him some Taoist skills first. Boom! The big green snake was like evergreen, penetrating through the layers of fiery clouds and charging toward Wu Yu. Wu Yu calmed down and held the demon-subduing stick tightly. Now, the Tanzong appointment had some mana that could be used. Under Wu Yu's control, the mana burst out and condensed on the demon-subduing stick. Since there was no way Wu Yu can only fight in the same way as before. A magic stick. This stick once destroyed the ghost girl instantly. It has to be said that the stick has profound artistic conception and huge power. It can completely explode Wu Yu's physical power. This time with the help of a lot of mana, a terrifying power burst out in an instant. Buzz. Wherever the golden stick was directed, Bursts of sonic boom sounds were torn apart. With this explosion, the storm shook, and the entire Shangqian palace trembled violently. Due to the collapse of several pillars, the Shangqian palace, which had a history of thousands of years, collapsed immediately. The palace, which had cost a lot of money to build, suddenly collapsed. During the collapse process, even the entire Wu capital was shaking. The green flames spread and instantly enveloped Shangqian Palace in a sea of fire. Receive. Immortal Haoshan put away the green fire, and Yuan Hao was entangled by him with a fly whisk. He was so frightened that he lost all color. My Shangqian Palace, my Shangqian Palace, Yuan Hao cried loudly. Please return to the book page and click to add it to the bookshelf. Thanks. Very important. \U003CE \U003E \U003CE \U003F. Follow the official QQ account 17K, ID, Love 17K, read early, and keep abreast of the latest information \U003C/E \U003E \U003C/E \U003E. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 59. Oops. Wu Yu carried the demon-subduing stick and rushed out the moment Shangqian Palace collapsed. It was not as embarrassing as last time. Writing this, I hope readers will remember our domain name Taiwan Novel Network Rightward Arrow. Compared to the Immortal Haoshan, there are still some shortcomings. Although he blocked the opponent's Taoist skills with a magic stick, Wu Yu knew very well that after one move, the magic source in his Tanzong point was trembling and almost collapsed. This was quite thrilling. Although he blocked the attack, if he continues to fight, he will die here today. In fact, he didn't know that Immortal Haoshan was even more shocked. A few days ago, Wu Yu was extremely embarrassed in his hands, but today he actually blocked his beacon fire. This was his Taoist technique. To him, Wu Yu's current combat power is already quite close to the third level of Qi condensation realm. Roll. Immortal Haoshan threw Emperor Yuan Hao aside and rushed to Wu Yu's side in a few steps. Now that such a big event happened in the palace, there was naturally an uproar. However, because this was a battle between two immortals, others did not dare to approach. Wu Yu knew that even if the other party was unreasonable and took action directly, today was not the most important moment, and who knew where Zhang Junlin was hiding. He quickly said loudly, Haoshan, I didn't mean to cause trouble today, and I didn't want to kill Yuan Hao. I'm afraid you don't know, but Emperor Yuan Hao is sending 30,000 Zhendong troops to attack Jialan County. If it's too late, Jialan County will be in ruins. Not many people knew about this matter, and many princes and ministers were not far away. When they heard the news, they couldn't hide it. There was a heated discussion among the people for a while. They know that Wu Yu has a very good relationship with Wu Yu now. If Yuan Hao really did such a thing, Wu Yu's actions today are not excessive. What? The Immortal Haoshan is really going crazy with anger. Now he even has the intention to destroy Yuan Hao. Yuan 11 appeared from nowhere. After hearing the news, he quickly protected Yuan Hao and took him away. Don't leave. In front of me, use flying pigeons to send a message to the Zhendong army to stop fighting. Wu Yu blocked their way. Yuan Hao never expected that the trouble would reach such an extent and that even Shangqian Palace would be destroyed. At this time, he could only stare wide-eyed and his legs were weak. Sun Wudao. Immortal Haoshan had a cold expression on his face, and stopped in front of him, saying, logically speaking, Jialan County is keeping to itself, and it is wrong for a mortal emperor to send the Zhendong army to attack them. But don't forget, this is your mortal business. We as cultivators are most afraid of interfering in mortal wars. If you openly come to the palace to make noise, you are not putting the entire monastic world in your eyes. Aren't you afraid that your master will personally take action and imprison you for the rest of your life? Although he wished he could destroy Xuanhao, he couldn't just give in this regard. Xuanhao struggled for a long time, but he did give him an excuse to kill Wu Yu on the spot. There is no need for Zhang Junlin now. I will kill this Wu Yu. When the Tongtian sword sect investigates him, I can definitely say that it is because he interfered in mortal wars and wanted to kill the mortal emperor for the sake of beauty. Immortal Haoshan had a plan in mind. He is condensing qi, which is when the source of the law is unstable. I take action at this time and get twice the result with half the effort. Sun Wuodao, it's time for you to die. Regarding the matter of the source of the law, Immortal Haoshan is a person who has been here before, so he doesn't understand the truth. Sun Wuodao, if you can't explain it to me, I will take your place and do justice for heaven, Immortal Haoshan scolded. This was a fight between two immortals. Mortals, even princes and other giants, were trembling with fear and hiding away from each other. Hearing this, the two wanted to fight, so they left quickly. At this level, how come Wu Yu doesn't know the whole story? The Immortal Haoshan wanted to take the opportunity to kill me. Although Xuanhao did a stupid thing impulsively, it did have a good effect. I happened to be here to take the bait. However, Wu Yu has a way. He actually smiled, and said in a leisurely voice, Holy Immortal Haoshan, I am right to interfere in mortal wars, but it is also out of good intentions. After all, this useless emperor wants thousands of innocent people to lose their lives. My sect, even if you know, you will forgive me. It has nothing to do with you. However, I do know a little secret about you. Little secret. Hearing these three words, the princes and ministers in the distance, as well as many imperial guards who came over, pricked up their ears. Wu Yu said loudly, I heard from Princess Wu that you deposed his younger brother more than a year ago, right? According to logic, as the protector of the country, you only have the power to kill demons. The dethronement of a mortal emperor, but it has nothing to do with you at all. You have become the overlord of Dongyu Kingdom and interfered in the government affairs at will. Now you are talking about me. Now that everyone in the world has testified for me, do you still want to kill me? This alone is enough to block Immortal Haoshan. Sure enough, the other party still closed his mouth at this time. Twice in a row. And it is strikingly similar. Last time, Wu Yu used the relationship between Xuanhao and his son to block him, and he killed Tian Yunpeng to vent his anger. This time, in public, Wu Yu used the rocks he moved to hit him. He cut off his feet, making him no longer human inside and out. Everyone saw that this time, Immortal Haoshan had no reason to attack Wu Yu. If this incident happened on such an occasion, it would definitely spread far and wide, and it would be impossible for the Tongtianjia sect to convince Haoshan Immortal's decision. However, the look in Immortal Haoshan's eyes at this moment still made Wu Yu feel a deep crisis. The other party's murderous intention towards him is already very serious, but this is not something Wu Yu can control. This chapter is not finished yet, please click on the next page to continue reading the exciting content. These two consecutive violent conflicts were all caused by idiot Xuanhao. Pass my order to the Zhendong army to retreat. All irrelevant people should leave here. UN-11 stood up at this time and gave Wu Yu a satisfactory answer. Although the resolution process of this trouble was thrilling, it was finally resolved. Xuanhao, you should open a hole in your head and pour out the water inside. Wu Yu sneered, carried the demon-subduing stick, and walked away without even looking at Immortal Haoshan. Here, only the smoke spreading from Shangqian Palace is left. Father, father, I want to give you an excuse to kill him. Xuanhao reluctantly sat up and looked at Immortal Haoshan walking over with trembling. Immortal Haoshan's face was very cold at this time, with murderous intent. UN11 knew him best. At this time, he quickly stood in front of Xuanhuan and cried, "Master, please, don't kill him. After all, he is also you flesh and bones. Kill me." Xuanhuan collapsed to the ground. "Master," UN11 knelt on the ground, hugging his legs, with tears on his face. After dragging UN11 for several steps, the immortal Xuanhuan exploded, kicked UN11 away, directly summoned the crane horse, flew across the sky, and left Wudu in the blink of an eye. "Father, father, where has he gone?" Xuanhuan escaped from death and was already covered in cold sweat. UN11 also looked like she had just experienced a catastrophe. She finally breathed a sigh of relief and said, "He went to find Yuan Chen and Zhang Junlin. Now that he has become enemies with Sun Wuodao to this extent, only Zhang Junlin can destroy him." "That's great," Xuanhuan cried with joy. "Xuanhuan." UN11 also wanted to tear him apart, and she said angrily, "You are responsible for all this. If it weren't for you, why would he bother with Sun Wuodao?" But Sun Wuodao killed Ghost Ji and ruined his expansion plan. It's not your turn to worry about it. He's an immortal, so it's your turn to mess around." UN11 really wanted to slap him. Xuanhuan thought about what he had caused, and was afraid for a while. However, if immortal Zhang Junlin takes action, Sun Wuodao is dead, Sun Wuodao is dead, and Wu Yu, mother, that Wu Yu is not my sister, and has no blood relationship with me, right? Xuanhuan began to imagine ferociously. "What you up to? Imprison Wu Yu and let her suffer all my abuse." Xuanhuan's eyes flashed with a terrifying light. This evil light frightened even UN11. She realized that Xuanhuan had been oppressed too much while growing up. Otherwise, his heart would not be so intense. That's all. Their siblings have been more capable than you since they were young. In comparison, you have been called a waste for so many years. You must have a lot of anger and hatred in your heart. If you don't release this, you will harm yourself sooner or later. UN11 shaking his head and smiling bitterly. "Mother, do you agree?" Xuanhuan was overjoyed. "The only requirement is that you do things secretly and don't let your father know. Otherwise, you know the result." Yes. I must know." Xuanhuan stood up and laughed loudly as if nothing had happened. Crane horse. When Wu Yu looked up, he saw that Xuanhuan had left Wudu. He thought for a moment. Judging from today's situation, Xuanhuan already has murderous intentions towards me. That's right. I killed Wanqing and Guiji, stopped his plan, and made him look embarrassed these 2 times, which made him feel even more threatened. It's no surprise that he was determined to kill himself. Since he left Wudu, Zhang Junlin is not in Wudu. From his perspective, if Zhang Junlin comes to kill me, he doesn't have to worry about the Tongtian sword sect looking for him. It's a good strategy. Then Zhang Junlin, his identity, the strength is terrible. Wu Yu thought about it for a while, and it seemed that he and Wu Yu had to leave Wu capital first. After making the decision, he was ready to take Wu Yu away directly. However, I felt a little strange. With Zhang Junlin's identity, he would not stay in Suqiao for such a long time without any reason. Is there something about Suqiao that attracts him? With this conjecture, Wu Yu was very curious. He felt that this was very likely to be the case. After all, Zhang Junlin and Yuan Chen were not actually in Wudu for a long time. Xuanhuan goes to find him, I should follow him and take a look. Over the years, Wu Yu has gathered a lot of forces under her command. During this period, she has gathered all these forces in the Wu Yu Palace. Among them are many martial arts experts. With these people here, they can at least prevent Xuanhuan mess around. In this way, Wu Yu quietly left Wudu and followed the direction of Hema. /U003CE /U003E /U003CE /U003F. Follow the official QQ account 17K, ID, Love 17K, read early, and keep abreast of the latest information /U003C/E /U003E /U003C/E /U003E. Heaven Swallowing Record. Author, Fengqing Yang. Chapter 60. Using cranes and horses to travel is mainly to save effort, so it will be much easier. But this does not mean that Wu Yu's pursuit speed will not be as fast as that of a crane horse when running on the ground. Wu Du was easy to defend but difficult to attack. Beyond the east were mountains and forests. Wu Yu climbed through the woods, biting the cranes and horses in the sky. With the cover of trees and leaves, the Haoshan immortal above the crane and horse naturally could not detect him. Cranes and horses are naturally good at flying. I rely on my legs to run. If this continues, my body will be tired and I will naturally be left behind. This is the inconvenience after losing Tianyunpeng. Of course, if Wu Yu came with Tianyunpeng, the other party would have discovered him long ago. In the middle of the night, Hema will probably be able to get rid of me. With my current level of exhaustion, if the thief Haoshan finds me, he will easily kill me. Therefore, Wu Yu could only stay far away. After dark, it was already midnight after the chase, and it would probably be dawn after midnight. 2 hours later, when Wu Yu was so tired that it was almost impossible to catch up, the crane horse in front finally slowed down and began to dive. I almost lost the chase. Nearby is the Xiang Mountains. Because Wu Yu had vowed to lead troops in war since he was a child, Wu Yu knew the entire Dongyu Wu kingdom's landforms like the back of his hand. The Xiang Mountains are rich in copper ore, which has been mined for hundreds of years. The resources have become scarce, so it is inaccessible. Zhang Junlin and Yuan Chen came out of the Zhongyuan Dao sect and gathered here. Unspeakable changes must have taken place here. Wu Yu quietly approached the spot where immortal Haoshan landed, not daring to make any noise. After all, if Zhang Junlin and Haoshan were alarmed, they would be dead. In the silent night, the atmosphere became particularly tense. There were insects everywhere and the howls of wild wolves in the mountains and forests, which could be heard far away. Now I have the Immortal Kingdom's supervision order to supervise Suqiao. Anything that appears in Suqiao belongs to me according to the rules of the two factions. Neither of them has the right to touch it. Unexpectedly, now they have nothing to do with me. It's happened. Obviously, the other party did not take this new supervisor of the Fairy Kingdom seriously at all. Closer. In the night, Wu Yu was like an ape, crawling through the mountains and forests in a familiar manner, hiding his movements. He was hiding in the crown of a giant tree 10 feet high, hidden among the dense leaves, with only a pair of eyes exposed. At this time, you can clearly see 3 crane horses on a steep rock wall. The crane horses are a little tired and are gathering together to rest. And not far away, it was Haoshan, Yuan Chen, and Zhang Junlin. That Haoshan has just arrived. Because there were trees blocking the way and Wu Yu himself was not weak, the other party could see them and vaguely hear their conversation at this time, but it was difficult for them to spot Wu Yu. Haoshan and Yuan Chen were talking face to face, while Zhang Junlin was sitting cross-legged on a boulder, facing Wu Yu from the side. Wu Yu followed his gaze and saw that the cliff next to it was completely bare except for a plant about 3 feet tall growing out of a rock crevice. The plant was as thick as an arm, with only 2 palm-sized leaves, which were red, and the rest of the plant was pitch black. At the top of the plant, there is a fist-sized fruit, like a black ball, with dense bumps and bumps, like a sea urchin. The interesting thing is that the peel is too thick, and it is difficult for Wu Yu to see clearly from this distance. What on earth is? The purpose of Zhang Junlin coming to Suqiao is for this plant. No matter how you look at it, this plant is ordinary. So Wu Yu was a little confused. He has an honorable status in the Xuanhuan Dao section. Ordinary treasures cannot even enter his eyes, let alone allow him to come all the way here in person. Thinking of this, Wu Yu knew that there must be something extraordinary about this plant. He took a closer look. At this moment, he discovered a pattern on the side of the pitch-black fruit. The lines are like tadpole-like words gathered together, densely packed, and even twisting. There is a vague feeling of being connected to the aura of heaven and earth, and the way of all things. It is this line that makes this fruit transcend ordinary things and achieve a meaning. This, could it be the spirit pattern? Wu Yu learned from the records in Dongsheng Shenzhouji that in this endless world, due to the nourishment of various essences and divine energies in the land, and the nourishment of the spiritual energy of heaven and earth, many fairies and treasures will be born over the years. Among them, the plants and trees are collectively called fairies. In addition to plants and trees, gems, jade, various essences of water and fire, divine objects of heaven and earth, etc. are all called treasures. Fairies can be used directly, can also be used to make elixirs, or have many incredible uses. Treasures can be used to forge magic weapons, make elixirs, or serve as materials for various monastic circles. These two things are born from heaven and earth. As for the elixirs, talismans, and magical instruments, they are all forged by humans. There are many kinds of strange talismans, their functions are strange, and they vary from person to person, so there is no strict hierarchy among monks. But elixirs and magic weapons are classified into different grades. As far as Wu Yu knows, ordinary magic weapons and elixirs, such as the demon-suppressing stick and the qi-condensing pill, are only the lowest magic weapons and the lowest level elixirs. It is rumored that there are ascetics who surpass the golden elixir and can create stronger magic weapons and elixirs. As for fairies and treasures, they are born from heaven and earth, but this world is even more magical. There will be obvious differences in the quality and connotation of the divine objects born from heaven and earth. This obvious difference is reflected in a kind of pattern, that is, spiritual pattern. This chapter is not over, please click on the next page to continue reading. The so-called spirit pattern was the pattern that Wu Yu saw on the black fruit at this time. The wonder of heaven and earth can be fully reflected in this spiritual pattern. It was an incredible mystery and artistic conception. At least when Wu Yu looked at it now, he could only feel it was very magical. In fact, only fairies with spiritual patterns can be called true fairies. For example, Su Yanli's fairy spirit garden contains countless fairies, many of which have magical effects, but none of them have spiritual patterns. It is said that fairies and treasures with spiritual patterns are more than 10 times more effective than ordinary fairies. Thousand-year-old ginseng is not as good as a fairy with spiritual patterns. The two are not at the same level. This immortal spirit with spiritual patterns, and Zhang Junlin personally waiting for it, is obviously worth more than 10 qi condensing pills, or even dozens. According to the agreement between the two factions, it originally belonged to Wu Yu. One spiritual pattern has such meaning. I wonder what those with 2 or 3 will do. Of course, those are simply unthinkable. Wu Yu was still able to calm down, and he first shifted his gaze from the black fruit, because at this time, Yuan Chen was taking Haoshan to meet Zhang Junlin. I saw Yuan Chen respectfully saying, "Senior brother Zhang, you should have heard what my father described. Sun Wudao is making trouble in Wudu, which is really annoying. The most important thing is that he is about to succeed in condensing qi." Immortal Haoshan cupped his hands and said, "It will take more than 10 days for this Shengsheng fruit to fully mature. If we can go back quickly and destroy Sun Wudao, it seems that we will not waste time. If we kill him again after a few days, we will wait. If he succeeds in condensing qi, it will probably take several times the effort." Originally, he wanted to wait for Zhang Junlin to return before killing Wu Yu. But what happened in the palace during the day made him furious. After all, Wu Yu will be more difficult to deal with after he condenses his energy. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhang Junlin waved his hand and said, Haoshan, you left the Xuanhuan Dao sect, but the more you mix, the more you go back. How can a person who has just condensed his energy scare you like this? Don't worry. When the Shenkyo matures in 6 days, I will go back with you and kill him immediately. Is the time confirmed? Yuan Chen said in surprise. Yes, I have seen many immortal roots mature. Judging from the current state, there is no doubt that it will take 6 days, Zhang Junlin said firmly. Immortal root. Wu Yu was shocked in his heart. He began to understand that the preciousness of the fairy in front of him was probably beyond his imagination. He only knows now that it seems that at the 5th level of the Qi condensation realm, one needs to plant the immortal root. That immortal root is extremely important to the entire monastic career and is a kind of foundation. Therefore, the value of the immortal root is not even a kind of foundation. Simple spiritual patterns can be measured by fairy spirits. Even if it is exchanged for qi condensing pills, it will be worth at least hundreds of qi condensing pills. Su Yanli may not have such wealth. When Wu Yu was in a state of shock, Zhang Junlin raised the corners of his lips, smiled evilly, and said, My father is really true. He clearly has a peerless immortal root in his hand, so just give it to me, but he wants to say I lack the test, so I have to go out and find a kind of immortal root on my own, and then he will give me the peerless immortal root. The sect leader also wants you to be stronger in the future, Yuan Chen said with a smile. That's true, to be honest, immortal roots are hard to find. Haoshan, you can provide me with the information about this Sheng fruit and let me solve this problem. Don't worry, I will never treat you and Yuan Chen badly in the future. Especially Yuan Chen, you can rest assured that your mother, brothers, and their descendants can rule Suqiao for generations to come, Zhang Junlin said. Haoshan said flatteringly, I have stayed at the 3rd level of Qi condensation realm for a long time. Now I am 170 years old. My body has begun to wither and my body has begun to fail. It seems that I will not be able to reach the 5th level of Qi condensation realm. This life and death, it turns out that it's just a simple task for a poor person, and it's not worth mentioning. He is paving the way for future generations. So, Haoshan, you should know how important this fruit is to me. I can't leave for a moment during these 6 days. Zhang Junlin stared at Haoshan and said with twinkling eyes. In the distance, Wu Yu breathed a sigh of relief, otherwise he would have had to race against time to rush back to Wudu and take Wu Yu away. In this way, immortal Haoshan could only nod his head and said, That's fine, Sun Wudao won't be able to successfully condense his qi in 6 days anyway. I'll wait here with the 2 of you for the fruit to mature. Immortal Haoshan probably wanted to have a better relationship with Zhang Junlin, but he didn't even go back. From his point of view, Wu Yu would not cause chaos in Wudu without anyone provoking him. Anyway, 6 days are fleeting. After hearing this, Wu Yu had a rough understanding of the current overall situation. If I stay in Wudu and they take the fruit 6 days later, that will be the day I die. Since Zhang Junlin promised Haoshan, he probably won't return to the Xuanhuan Dao sect until he kills me. No matter when I succeed in condensing energy, the most important thing now is to return to Wudu quickly, take my sister away, and let myself move from the light to the dark. Let's talk about other things. Fortunately, he came with me today, otherwise he would have been killed by the returning Zhang Junlin before he could succeed while he was still slowly condensing his energy in Wudu. Walk. Please click to add a bookshelf. /U003CE /U003E /U003CE /U003F. Follow the official QQ account 17K, ID, Love 17K, read early, and keep abreast of the latest information. /U003C /E /U003E /U003C /E /U003E